Yeah, backsliding into smoking. Oh, there it is. Backsliding into smoking these fucking things again. These overtaxed fucking uh, whatever lung blackeners. Yeah, these things. I just fucking took an Uber. Um, for 10 fucking dollars, I take an Uber. I told the guy in the very beginning, that I fucking, uh, had a vape. Like I lost my vape, in his car and everything. And then, I just had to get some advice from him or whatever, since I'm about to be fucking kicked out of, since I'm about to like, leave my apartment, I'm not gonna be able to afford my apartment anymore. And, I told him I fucking lost my vape and shit. All he wanted was a fucking money. I said, sorry, I can't tip you. I gotta save money and everything. He didn't fucking remind me that I didn't say myself, like, remind me about that. So yeah, that's on me, but fuck Uber. Um, anyway, fuck cigarettes too. Um, all right.
Well, biology finds order in the world by giving every living thing a name in Latin. Chemistry has a system of prefixes, suffixes, and numerals to tell you in a word or two the exact composition of an atom or a compound. Physics has to communicate its idea.
Right, so yeah, I mean, I guess we have the symbols and everything, acceleration, time, all that stuff. So just, I guess, sort of these representations. I mean, it is better to think, guys, than, you know, just, you got to think. Okay, I'm not saying everything has to be about thinking, but, or that thinking is going to get you, that far in life or something, and it's not going to take like any action. But, yeah, I mean, dealing with the atom and the component and everything, there's just a definition of it. Okay, so there, the the texture of this, if this is made of clay, um, if this cup is made of clay, you just say it's a you just say it's a clay cup. You know what I mean? And if it breaks, it smashes or whatever. The clay cracks and everything. So why the fuck in this ether equation and all of this shit like that exists in space? What we're um forgot my fucking ashtray. Yes. Uh, yeah. So why the fuck in this ether equation, like, are you like using a fucking adjective to describe? I mean, I don't know. I'm not that great at English. Like, I majored in it in fucking college or whatever, but yeah. Um, why are you describing why are you saying that the fucking ether smashes? If the ether smashes, if the ether, has waves, then what the fuck are the waves doing? Why can't you? Why? Well, like, it's that simple to me. Like, why can't you just explain what the waves are doing? Okay, all of these magnetic waves, these fucking waves, that makes everything a holographic fucking universe. Fuck you.
Is differently. The language of physics is mathematics. Because if you're trying to describe how the world works, you really have to know how things relate to each other in a mathematical way. For example, we've been talking a lot about position,
I
philosophy.
mean, I'll give you fucking people a chance, okay? Physics should really be about geometry, you know? Okay, the Bible shouldn't be taken literally. The Bible should be taken figuratively, okay? It's that fucking simple. But I mean, for some fucking reason, has to be this way, it can be this way. I mean, if we have to say that, in order to get through this simulation in the video game, to get to level two, this is what you have to fucking do. I mean, if you guys want to play that fucking role, you know, fuck you.
velocity and acceleration and how they're all connected. Velocity is a measure of your change in position.
I mean, and you think you have a higher IQ because you have more discipline to be able to like predict this stuff, you know, to be able to say in your mind, well, if 1 + 1 = 2 and the 3, you know, looks like that, or, you know, like whatever, if a 3 looks like that, then, you know, 1 + 2 will equal 3. I mean, you can't just fucking say that shit. You have to, like, I mean, that's like what, you know, fucking math is. But just because you have more of a discipline in your mind to be able to fucking do that, you think it's fair that you can describe one of the uh greatest sciences, you know, out there for us to be able to like improve our fucking world. You think that it's okay to just fucking completely slander the people that weren't raised the way you were fucking raised in some fucking goddamn, you know, whatever. Like I was raised nice. I mean, I was, you know, I wasn't like you just said, you know, decent parents. You didn't have parents who, you know, fucking told you to go play fucking sports or whatever, you know? Your demands were different, you know? You grew up more logically, so you think it's fair that you can just take it out on us or something, you know, or as if, you know, yeah, okay, you're like, we just, you know, we need to learn here, and you can't just, you know, simplify the shit for us, okay, pretty lady?
And acceleration is a measure of your change in velocity. They're connected. One quality will describe how the other is changing. And the way we describe change in mathematics is through calculus. Calculus explains how and why things change using derivatives, which help you to determine how an equation is changing,
Derivatives.
as well as with integrals, which you can use to calculate the area under a curve. Derivatives and integrals themselves are closely connected, but let's start with derivatives. You probably won't be able to go straight from this lesson to your calculus final, but hopefully in about 10 minutes, you will be able to understand some of the maths that scientists have been using to think about physics for the last 400 years or so. And you'll also have a new way to fight speeding tickets, you know, just in case.
Well, that's hope right there. I mean, there is hope after all. We might, you know, be driving our car down the road one day to get to our nuclear our nuclear plant and everything, and you know, we'll be able to come up with some excuse like, yeah, well, if I don't get there in 5 minutes, the world might end. Yeah, we can say that to the fair cop. You know, these are us fair people can us fair, you know, people uh with so much logic and everything, you know, so much discipline to be able to understand this complex futuristic bullshit that you don't just want to, you know, you just want to label everything and say, well, this is the ether is a symptom of gravity, and gravity is ether is a symptom of magnetism, and all like all this shit or whatever. I mean, it's like you said, magnetism is a symptom of gravity, and ether is a symptom of fucking gravity. I mean, you're just saying everything's fucking, you know, from gravity, but you're not describing the fucking gravity, you goddamn fucking apes.
Last time we talked about that unfortunate incident where you got a speeding ticket. Your speedometer was broken, but because we knew your acceleration, we were able to calculate how fast you were going when the cops pulled you over. So now, let's talk about what happens next. Say the police drive off. You're ready to get back on the road, so you hit the gas and zoom forward, moving faster and faster. But in this scenario, we don't know your acceleration. We only know how much your position is changing over time. In this instance, your position happens to be equal to the amount.
So the velocity, can you please answer, like, again, how this, you know, velocity, can't even take notes on this fucking shit. I mean, just like, what is this velocity, how is this velocity affecting, you know, or what, so for some reason, like, you know, the velocity is gonna, I mean, fuck.
Amount of time you've been driving squared. So we'd write that as the equation x equals t squared. 20 seconds in, you pass a detector with a sign.
Velocity or x equals time squared. Okay, so we're talking about squares here. We're talking about time. We're in a time continuum that never ends and constantly does the same thing over and over and over and over again to continue, but you're not telling us the basic, you're not giving us, what this uh what this time is, like what is in what is the time, consist of. I mean, is it because you really have no evidence of this stuff, I guess I believe it is. And just based on just based on nature, Jesus, philosophy being a science, okay? Not fucking nature. But yes, like, so okay, I'm getting there. I'm with you. I'm with you on that.
Sign that tells you your speed. You keep driving, foot still on the gas, before you realise what number you saw on the sign. And oh no, you just got a speeding ticket in the last episode for doing 126 kilometres an hour in a 100 km/h zone. And now the detector says you're going even faster. Now you want to know if the number on the detector is accurate. In other words, you want to find your velocity at the exact moment you passed it. That velocity is just a measure of your change in position. It's derivative. So to find your velocity, we'll need to find a derivative of your position. And in order to determine that, we first need to talk about limits. Not speed limits, I mean the derivatives kind. I'll explain. Limits are basically...
Right, tell us how limited these photons are. Tell us that, oh, please just say that these photons only travel in a straight and continuously straight line. There has to be some linear equation to this time and to this speed and velocity and motion. Please say something like that. Okay, so they say limits are based on the idea that if you have an equation on a graph, limits are based on the idea that if you have an equation on a graph, okay, I have a graph, like that. Well, I didn't do a very good graph. I think I lost the notes I was taking on the last video, but you can often, okay, so, right, we have a graph and everything, but it doesn't mean that the fucking universe has to be a fucking graph. I mean, to think that we are fitting the universe on a piece of paper or something, I mean, yeah, it has to be 2D. Excuse me. You can often predict what it's going to look like. I need to calm the fuck down. I'm angry. I'm angry today. Going to look like, you can often predict what it's going to look like at one point just by knowing what it looks like at the surrounding points. I mean, I'd have to read that like fucking 28 times or something just to fucking memorize it. What the hell is that going to do for me? I mean, explain.
From the idea that if you have an equation on a graph, you can often predict what it's going to look like at one point just by knowing what it looks like at the surrounding points. For example, let's say you have a graph of x equals t squared from our speeding scenario above, and you want to find out how your position is changing at the exact moment that time is equal to 0. That is what we call a limit as t approaches 0. So you take a look around at what's happening around t equals 0. At t equals 1, x is 1. At t equals 0.5, x is 0.25. And at t equals 0.1, x is 0.01. You can probably tell that as we get closer and closer to t equals 0, your value of x is getting closer to 0 too. That's what mathematicians mean when they talk about a limit. Limits are useful because they can help predict what happens as you make intervals smaller. An interval is just a range on a graph. It's the space between 2 points on the horizontal axis. So the first thing we can try is calculating your average velocity over the interval from 15 to 20 seconds. To do that, we use an equation that we talked about last time, your average velocity, which is equal to the change in your position divided by...
I mean, is it possible that we have to become more stupid to live smarter? Okay, so everybody knows about this Hadron Collider and everything. It just seems like that the Hadron Collider, like dealing with the atoms colliding is way more complex. And what that, like, the Hadron Collider was supposed to create black holes, and now the LIGO is supposed to create two black holes that collide. Like, I mean, is that what's fucking happening here? Um, and for what, particular reason other than to just say that, there's waves and everything leading to the center of the galaxy.
By the change in time. That turns out to be 35 meters per second. Problem is, it's just an average. It's not exactly how fast you were going after 20 seconds of acceleration when you passed the detector. Because of limits, we know that you could get a little closer to the right number by calculating your average over smaller and smaller intervals. Then you'd see that the number seems to be getting closer and closer to 40 meters per second, which means you're going to need to slow way down if you don't want to get your second speeding ticket of the day. But that's the idea of derivatives. You can use infinitely tiny intervals to figure out exactly how an equation is changing.
Okay, but the equation we're trying to find out about is matter, okay? Matter that exists in space, or whatever. I mean, just matter, in general. What the hell is all of this, field theory and, gravitational pull? Like, what are you people talking about? What are you PhD fucking cryptocurrency assholes talking about?
At any moment, you can even come up with an equation to describe the change. That's exactly what velocity is, an equation that describes change in position. And acceleration describes change in velocity. So we call velocity the derivative of position, and acceleration the derivative of velocity. Now, when it comes to how you can express a derivative in writing, mathematicians have come up with shortcuts, like what's known as the power rule. As the name suggests, it's used for equations with variables raised to powers or exponents, as long as the exponent is a number. For example, x equals t squared would work with the power rule because t is raised to the power of 2. The power rule says that for these kinds of equations, to calculate the derivative, all you need is one weird trick. Take the number of that exponent, in this case 2, and stick it in front of the variable. Then you subtract 1 from the exponent, and that's your derivative. So the derivative of x equals t squared is just 2t, which means that
X equals t squared, and that equals what? 2t? Did you just do calculus?
no matter how many seconds you've got your foot on the gas, your velocity will be 2t, so double the number of seconds. After 5 seconds, you were going a modest 10 meters per second, but after 20 seconds, you were going a full 40 meters per second, which is not good. We'd write that like this, where dx over dt is just a way of saying that we're taking the derivative of the part of the equation that involves t. Or, as a mathematician would put it, we're taking the derivative of x with respect to t. You'll also sometimes see this written in a different way. If f of t is equal to t squared, then f prime of t is equal to 2t. Now let's try to find a couple more derivatives.
Fuck Crash Course. Fuck Crash Course. This is fucking bullshit. This is fucking bullshit. I'm not fucking doing this fucking shit. I mean, I'm not learning a goddamn thing. I'm not learning one goddamn thing, honestly. I'm not doing this fucking shit. Yeah, I'll just go, I'll just go watch Drive Science videos. This is just fucking horse shit. I mean, what the fuck? Yeah. I don't know, man. Like, you obviously can't stick a gun to my head to want to learn this shit. So, yeah, maybe I would want to if I was getting paid for it. I mean, I don't know. Fuck. I don't know, man. I'm not doing fucking 44 more videos of this shit.